right?
Hello.
We're having fun at the beginning of another show now, aren't we?
Yeah. Welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth, Mr. Limrill.
Oh, pleasure to be here, Perry. We're talking and having fun about, well, basically, when people on Earth claim they really want to know truth and remember who they are, part of them does, but another part that they've been used to feeding negative emotion and imagination into does not. And one part has to be let go in favor of another. You can't do both. For instance, people can't continue to put out imagination in a negative and positive way, good for their family, Armageddon, end of the world, and all that stuff, and add energy emotionally to both, be angry, and expect to make any great change. Because all negative emotions and negative imaginations keep a person from recovering the use of their higher faculties. This is a fact, it's not a theory. There's no way to use higher faculties and turn them on, become enlightened, and be free on Earth, still keeping the negative emotions and imaginations that subconsciously influence the nervous system of a person on. They need to be turned off, at least minimum. So people say, well, how do I do that? How do I turn them off? Well, imagining of just being positive won't do it, because the opposite of positive is negative. And there are two currents woven around each other that stick in the atmosphere of this planet. It's difficult for people to do that, to see the forest for the trees, so to speak. So there has to be a way for them to do something that will still turn off subconscious negative drives they don't even know they have. If they're subconscious, people aren't aware what's influencing them subconsciously. All they know is they feel afraid. And when you make decisions based on fear, always, without exception, it's the incorrect decision. And people find that out the hard way. They make a decision based on fear and worse things happen, or they're still in trouble some other way. So we have to have a way to stop or turn off fear, number one. Anger is backed by fear subconsciously, and fear is backed by terror. Terror is backed by sudden death, torturing end of lifetimes and other lives people are afraid to remember, even though it's not affecting them now and will not affect them again in this life. Things that happened to them in the past that ended their life violently. And they find themselves on Earth with little or no memory, wondering why they are here or how they got here, what they can't quite remember. It's fear that keeps them from recovering who they are, fear that what happened before will happen again. Tyrants use that to their advantage by misusing technology to keep people in fear, because as long as they're in fear, tyrants know people will put their imagination out two ways. I imagine myself being abundant and happy and healthy. Here's my family, perfect mate. But gee whiz, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. It's negative, it's terrible, and I'm angry. See? And revenge comes into that. Any negative emotion like doubt, fear, anger, revenge, theory, speculation, debate are all negative. And they will waste a person's life and misdirect them this entire lifetime if they continue to indulge in it. Now, people don't understand on Earth. They're not brought up anywhere on this planet, taught and instructed in how to turn off fear, how to enlighten themselves, or how to turn on higher faculties of the being. Most people think in a deluded way that they're a physical body, and they have a soul somewhere they don't really understand that's tucked away somewhere that survives the body. They think in terms of this controlling the soul. That's incorrect. It's backwards. Because they are a spherical being, spherically shaped energy that is not nuclear, not atomic, and it runs the brain and the body, the DNA, the molecular structure, not the other way around. Since people aren't taught this growing up, why should they be aware of it as an adult? Why should they be confident with it? Well, I don't expect them to be. But once they cross paths with the hue, the new ray in the hue, which is designed to do one thing and one thing only, it's designed to retire what we call evil. It's a failed experiment in the universe, good and bad and all that, and replace it with an energy that motivates the being to only create with their imagination. that which will be of an uplifting benefit to all life. For it to work well, a person has to be aware of what all that life is beyond this planet, where the majority of God is, period. Billions of galaxies, trillions of worlds on countless dimensional levels, and that's where this Holy Spirit is that people pray to without realizing what it is they're supposed to be doing with it. It isn't really a medium for people to pray to as they think. It is a medium that accepts what we imagine. It is the one power underneath everything that is unbiased, and it will simply bring into manifestation whatever you imagine it as the spherical being running a body, good and bad and both. And it's the creation of both working against themselves that causes people to be grounded to a physical body on earth with no memory. It splits the being's ability in half and grounds it to the earth because it's negative only. Fear of the present and the future traps the Atma in physical form. I can't say it any plainer or make it any more clear than that. So when we work with the first sound behind all creation, we're working with a kind of a fail-safe first sound that rumbles and roars through the entire multidimensional creation as one energy behind all planes, all planets, all suns, all galaxies, all dimensions, parallel and higher. And everything you see floats in it. Worlds that are molecular in nature, dirt, mountains, core, atmosphere, moon, sun, are all molecular constructs. They're lower energies that are maintained and managed by a group of beings called silent mentors. They are not known to people on Earth, but they are known, at least people are aware they exist, out among the many worlds that travel the stars that people still on Earth are kept in the dark about knowing exist. People on Earth right now, if they were suddenly transported to a normal human planet, and there are millions of them, more than that, I'm being kind, they would think they were on heaven because the societies, the structures, the children, everything's so different than Earth. But to those people living in those worlds right now on the physical universe, that's normal. It's just normal. When we go into the hue, what happens is it sets up a pre-designed in the history of creation before the worlds of time and space were made, a link into that omnipresent first sound. You know, the energy that's white golden light, when you get out of your body as a sphere above the earth and look at it, it's a white golden light packing the energy of space between the earth and the moon and the sun, the stars, the galaxies. That black void that people see is actually a brilliant light, but Earth's physical eyes, twin-stranded DNA, the limitations of physical eyes, are unable to see into that higher frequency, so it appears black in photographs as well. Electronic instruments can see into infrared and ultraviolet and take photographs in ways that human eyes can't. So you see these galaxies with all these colors and all this beauty. Now the Atma out of a body can see that because the Atma is not a physical eye. It sees through these different teardrop-shaped faculties. And so from a white corner, it can see all that stuff and know it. What people on Earth call soul, people on other worlds, and even in some of the Indian traditions, the Atma is defined as the atom, or the atom of the divine. It's a spherical being. Earth and moon and suns and stars are round because they're patterned after their creators. That's us. We as the soul, as the Atma, are part of and made of the same energy as the source itself that sustains this whole creation. And we have the capability as a human being or human being, first half of the word human, to connect directly into it telepathically. Telepathy is not psychic. It is far higher in energy, and it cannot be tampered with. It's pure. Always has been and always will be. So when you connect into that, you're connecting into the source that goes back to the source from whence we came. You begin a journey back while you're alive. As it can't be made more plain than this, because that's exactly what happens. It's like linking into something that has a certain protection that comes with it, that each person has to experience for themselves, even this chaotic world we call Earth. And you're able to make advancements in unusual and unexpected ways that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. Because this atmosphere on this planet has what's called an ionosphere surrounding it in the upper atmosphere. Anything you think or feel, and certainly all negative things ever done in the history of this world, and all positive things bounce off that ionosphere like a radio wave that they can send to get it around the curvature of the Earth. It bounces off the ionosphere. Otherwise, you couldn't send a signal around the planet. That's what thoughts and emotions do too. And this planet's atmosphere is jam-packed full of negative and positive distortions and abuses and tyrants and deaths and murders and nice stuff and good lives and bad lives, just packed full of it. People grow up in this field learning practically nothing from birth about any of this. And they become the effect of these outer energies, and they open themselves to them. Imagine fear when they see something on TV, they see something negative, and they get angry and they throw energy at it. They're connecting into it, unconsciously linking with it. And this is designed to keep them grounded to this Earth. So people have to have a way to shut that down, shut it off, so they can get out of their body like they're supposed to be able to, get above the Earth with friends and master teachers and guides, and look at things and recover memory of what really is outside this Earth, how God really works, how this thing people call divine spirit functions, because it isn't something you should be praying to. It's asking for favors, begging God for favors. It's demeaning. It makes people a doormat for some higher energy, and tyrants take advantage of that, demanding worship and giving nothing in return. It's important that people understand, recover the ability to know that their purpose for working with this omnipresent living energy they call divine spirit is to co-creatively imagine in it what they want to occur. If you imagine selfish things only for yourself, very little of it will work with you. If a person imagines something and creates something with their imagination that was intended to be of uplifting benefit to all life, and not just life limited to Earth, all life, then it will work with them that way too. It responds to what we imagine. It is a co-creator with us, and it comes from the source behind all life. Tyrants don't want people on Earth knowing that they're supposed to be co-creators with their imagination, with the source behind all life. They want them believing you're supposed to worship some supreme tyrant being up there. You can't know, you're not smart enough, and you're supposed to believe in it till you die and then go to some heaven where then they might tell you the truth. That's really not how it works. It really isn't. The source behind all life, if you go to it and visit it, and the beings who know how to go to it, and the teachers that work with it, then life changes dramatically for a person, even on this planet, because they recognize that at the core of all things, this source doesn't require, never requested, nor does it encourage that we worship it, ever. It only requires that we respect it, because we are made of the same energy as on a smaller scale, like a teardrop in a mighty ocean of the same energy, that we respect that in each other, and then all life in the grand multidimensional creation. If people want freedom and they want to play with this source energy, there has to come a time when they leave faith behind, because it will not provide what they're looking for. It's belief only. Any good faith in any way that's sincere at some point has to be left behind so you can leap into direct knowing perception, direct knowing certainty. Without that, you cannot have the reestablishment of conscious free being in the universe. We're required to become trustworthy co-creators with it. It's not going to tolerate us coming up there to some heaven, playing around up there, mucking things up with our subconscious negative drives and misunderstandings. religious and political prejudices and all that. My God, this is only one little planet amongst trillions. Do we really think we're going to go out in space and project all of our little petty crap out there among them? And they're going to just accept it and say, good, come along, have fun with us? No, they're not. Never. They won't. We have to join with them, not the other way around. These big benevolent organizations out there, one in particular, the largest, would create and provide us with the technology and the ability to transform this world. Once the people on this planet, and I'm talking about government leaders as well, hidden and otherwise, collectively decide they want this help, and there's a humility about it, not bowing to some other race, they don't want to run our governments, but in a kindness of understanding that these very much more evolved human beings from other worlds can help us liberate this place, but we have to wake up enough to ask for it. They are not tyrants. How much more clear can that be stated? Nobody's holding back the transformation of this world except the people on the planet themselves, because of their misuse of the imagination in both positive and negative ways, every day, every week, every month, every year. And this is unfortunately reinforced by media, politicians, the wealthiest people, the poorest people. They're all in this together. On this one planet, we're all in this together. There is no favorite daughters and son of the source behind all life. There is no privileged group. It doesn't work like that. All Atma's running bodies, whether they're completely unconscious of this fact or not, originate from the source behind all life. And that is not an arena of time and space. It is not something of matter. It isn't DNA. It's not brains and bodies. What we are is not any of that. We've never been any of that. If people believe incorrectly through self-delusion or the forcing of tyrants upon them in some of their life that they believe that, they are being misguided. Absolutely. You're not going to recover truth or freedom thinking like that. It's reciprocal. Send out this energy, the right knowing and how to do it, into the omnipresent sound supporting the whole thing, and it will respond to you in like kind. It's reciprocal. If I imagine freedom as a being in the multiverse, because I want to go home to the source to give something to them, not ask and beg for things, but bring myself back there to contribute something new way of doing things that can help change the way the lower worlds of time and space are run, particularly this planet, then I'm doing things the right way. And if I don't say it, if I don't put it out in a telepathic communication like this through your show, because I'm not here to deliver information, enlightening information and data to people. It will do them no good. I'm here to demonstrate myself as a spirit running this body, knowing it, is sending a telepathic freedom energy of the new ray and the hue through you, to you, out to all the people that listen. And it's that one energy that can help change them. I don't do that. I just show them how to open the door, and give them techniques, in which case they can get off their duff and co-create getting their own freedom back. And people I work with, not from Earth, will help them, if they're willing to do that. No one's going to wave a magic wand and set anybody free, because if some spiritual master did that, they know full well people in the current state they are on Earth, with subconscious drives like they are, would recreate their own trap in a day and lose it. Enlightenment and freedom has to be maintained consciously as a continuum, moment to moment. That means we have to be aware of who and what we are in the present moment of eternity, not in the past or the future. And from the present moment in eternity, you can look out into the past or future and see everything. and know who you are and what our purpose is as a co-creator with the source, what it really is. We are meant as Hugh man and Hugh woman and Hugh child and Hugh anything to be one day conscious co-creators with that source energy, to come home to that source, bringing new insights and new ways to do things, to help it change things for the better. It relies on us to do that. We're responsible for the condition of this earth, whether we want to admit it or not. And beings from other worlds are responsible for the condition the way this earth is because they've influenced it secretly one way or another. We're not alone in the universe, so we'd all be dead anyway. If people I know had not intervened, they'd have blown this planet apart in nuclear war dozens of times already. So something shuts down their launch computers, prevents them from going to nuclear war. They don't tell the public that. It scares them. They can't control it. So fortunately, we're not alone in the universe, and that is meant for the benefit of all life on this planet. The massive people, government people, hidden people, elite people, rich people, poor people, Queen of England, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, these people who rule things here, secretly or otherwise, are operating in more terror subconsciously than we are, which is why they continually make mistakes in judgment, funnel trillions of dollars down the hole. They get backfired on in different ways, and they try to fix that. And then that backfires, and they try to fix that. Because you can't make correct decisions based on fear. It's a misdirection only. Okay. There really isn't any other way, Perry, unless you can come up with one, to where I can communicate in words what hidden truth really is about this. I can only share it with people, but I'm doing it as kinetic living energy. I'm doing it because these shows can be recorded and put on YouTube. People can play them back. The channel will still work through that video when they play it back.
Scott, I have a question here from Thai people. That question is, people are wondering, how about, like they send out heal, practicing heal, and what's the difference between heal and like cleansing chakras or activate chakras?
Chakras aren't important to be activated if you don't know what you're doing. Why activate a chakra when you've got subconscious drives that would free a subconscious influence to have you imagine negative things, to control the people, to steal money, or to manipulate this or that? That creates negative repercussions in space-time according to the primary basic law of physical universe. Every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. It's reciprocal. Whatever people put out will come back to them to teach them better, one way or the other. There's no getting around this. Well, there actually is a way to get around karma and reincarnation and Maya or illusion. And that is to begin to create with the imagination properly, in harmony with the source, in one correct way. And there is only one correct way: to use the highest faculty of being, a godly power, a goddess power, however you want to put it. And that is to, of free will, deliberately and of awareness, imagine and bring into creation that which will be of an uplifting benefit to all life. Not just life on earth, all life out there, where the majority of source prime creator is, and all the other beings living on all those worlds. This childish, self-centered attitude that God only created this earth with people on it just for the selfish few elite is keeping people ground and bounded to this earth under the control of tyrants who know that's an illusion. People are meant to know for themselves, to be able to walk in their own gravity, their own center, with dignity and respect for themselves and all life. There are countless worlds out there that live like this right now. When you go to them, and you can go to them out of your body as a spherical Atman visit, hey, there's no classified system can keep me from doing that. Not as an Atma, because they can't affect the Atma in any way, shape, or form. Bodies they can destroy. Well, if they're protected, they can't even do that. They think they control the satellite system above this planet, but they know full well that at times that control is taken over by something else, not to control governments, to make sure bad things don't happen, or to make sure certain things happen that will be beneficial instead of worldwide destruction. Because people on this earth have pushed the button many times to wipe this world out. I point out, do people really think that people that thought it was a cool idea to set off a hydrogen bomb in our own atmosphere, hundreds of them, radiating the earth, was a good idea? You think the same people would not hesitate under the right conditions through fear to push the button to have an all-out nuclear war? The same people? Would you trust them not to do it? You shouldn't, because they did try to. And if we were alone in the universe, we'd be dead now. We would be looking for more bodies, another planet, to come get more experience, because life here would be gone. People on this earth didn't prevent that. People from elsewhere did. They're not interested in running these governments. They're interested in helping us grow up. There's adults on this planet running things that are operating like spoiled brats, children. They thinking they're elite over everybody else because it's good for them to justify that, so they can feel good about themselves for making all the bad decisions they are. They know they're not right. The same people want to disclose the truth. They're afraid they'll be killed if they do. My work is here to share with them and you is they won't. Not by anybody from outside this earth. Tyrants aren't allowed to come here anymore. Tyrant spacefaring races. Gone. The solar system is quarantined. But let me say this is important. It's not quarantined by us on this earth. If we want a future in space, we're going to have to play ball with much more evolved, kinder people than us. Or we're not going to be allowed to play out there. We want freedom from disease and genetic science improved here. We're going to have to show people we can be trusted with it. It's just that simple, isn't it? Okay.
Okay, I'd like to share that I am one of those people who have tried in many ways, read a lot of information about enlightenment, about awakening. I've tried many ways, like as many others. But the thing is, now I have found you. Again, I practice. I found you, found your work, and I have practiced. So it takes time. And what I get from this is serenity, that's for sure. But what awakening comes to me is like, it happens slowly but steadily. And the life has changed completely. So I like people to understand it doesn't happen, just happen like this, It takes time to practice.
Good if a person was really aware enough to allow it to happen instantly. It can be very, very rare on this planet that anybody's prepared enough to embrace remembering who they are from the source from whence they once came. Before they started playing with bodies and running, they get lost in them and forgot and got stuck in them and reincarnating with no memory, life after life and all that. That kind of forgetfulness happened before there was any reptilian implant misuse of technology. That's just part of what puts a stiffer control over people to recall. But even before that, people had already forgotten how to traverse across the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth to the higher realms from whence they came. There's more to this amnesia than what's on the surface with extraterrestrial good and bad groups in our solar system, in our galaxy. Most are kind, most of them. There's a few tyrant races out there. They're not all good, but they are becoming that way now so that they don't come back here. We have an opportunity to change this world in ways never before done. And also the polar flips of this planet that were cyclic, and this is an unusual planet in this way, that would flip their poles every 100,000 years and wipe everything out on the surface, raise new land masses, and everybody'd start over under treaty, colonizing this planet. Another 100,000 years, it all gets wiped out. If you don't get off, you're going to be left behind to die or be a few thousand left to procreate with no memory, with your genomes on your DNA artificially messed with and shut down, passed on genetically. That's the condition of this planet right now, Earth, present time. They've stopped the polar flips of this planet. That means people can live in the atmosphere of this world for millions of years now No more golden age to iron age and flipping the poles, golden age to iron age and back again that people have learned and studied about. Yes, that was happening, but if that continued to happen on this planet would never devolve to the point of being one of these members out there in a great organization. Starlight's back, which means he's probably telling me we're ready to go on a journey, right? Yeah, see, he doesn't want to waste time with all this intermediate stuff, right? Yeah, got it. You want to go on a journey with Perry and go out of our body, go play in the stars, go meet Etta, and is that fun? Well, yeah, I think that would be good. Okay, so there are two books. I'll tell you right now. The Ceres agenda, SERS, that's the planet Saturn. These are the rings that make up the rings of Saturn. Ice, water. Mile-long cylindrical ship, bridge control on each end, disc-shaped 3 semispheric pods on the bottom, little blue anti-gravitical light around them. The kinds of way these ships look today, a bit more evolved than they were 40 years ago even. But this is stationed in the solar system permanently to police this quarantine. I'm making no joke about this. This is good because without them here and people in hidden bases on this planet that operate in a slightly altered parallel dimension to keep invisible to the misguided people that run things on this planet right now, if they hadn't been here, Earth would have already been destroyed. These are actual original art creations by a very gifted artist I hired, a CGI person. And we created these images. And there's Mark Senfield. These tyrants shooting beams at him, a ship beaming him to safety up in the high Sierra Mountains of Northern California. And these are actual actors that were shot to portray these characters. In the back of this book are techniques section. One for the prologue and one for each of the 29 chapters involving the hue, the new ray and the hue I talk about. So it's very helpful to people to go through this in order to have a grounded understanding on this earth they never got here, in order to comprehend how to work with the hue and make real change. That's the Savior's agenda. And that's about what's happening out in space among extraterrestrial races and what happened in higher dimensions that affected them recently, to be more focused on why they would even want to help transform the earth, because they really didn't intervene that way before. So that's this book. The Emerald Door.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Scott, hold on. The first book, those who are our listener or the one who read your book, the first book, can go to that, here on the Saturn by reading your book and use your right imagination to have experience. Here,
yeah, and some of our shows have taken people there.
Yeah.
And some people know it well, others go, I saw it, but I don't believe it. Or they'll do this kind of thing to themselves. Or they'll tell themselves they can't see something because that's how they've grown up thinking. It doesn't mean they aren't. It just means they're not allowing it to come into their conscious awareness yet. It will, given time. You begin to remember that it's far more realistic to be out of your body looking at things as a being, a spherical being, as soul, than it is to look through physical eyes on a planet that's limited to the frequency of just those physical eyes. The two are infinite universe apart. So the real key is to bring back awareness out there and in higher dimensions to the physical brain and body that grew up in this life that never got any of that training, never had any of it recorded there, including past lives. You won't find them in this brain and this body for this life. The only thing that begins to remember such things is not this, but the spherical being running this that people don't remember. They're afraid to remember it. That's why they have a fear of death, because they think they can die. Bodies can, but they can't. The Emerald Doorway. Book 1 of the Parallel Time Trilogy. These are 3 of the characters in the book. This is a master teacher. He's holding a quartz crystal staff glowing with golden light, has the symbol of a cross with an oval hole in the center of a longitudinal up and down hole. That's the symbol for eternity. And it's a device, and they're standing on anti-gravitic disks. There's a blue light around them, hovering above the ocean, new land masses that are forming 100,000 years ago after Lemurian Atlantis, which back then was a colony, a big continent, not the Atlantis that was destroyed 35,000 years ago. This whole world we call Earth flipped its poles 100,000 years ago. These beings, of course, are not from Earth, and he's showing them, introducing them to what this is. This is what's called the Ancient One. It's what the source behind all life really looks like, comprised of millions of these, billions. Each individual, the real human being, is this, what people call soul on Earth, has structure and different dimensional levels of depth. Each layer has teardrop shapes, and each one of those teardrop shapes is a higher faculty of being. It's spherical. And this runs these. This is Etta. He's a little creature called a Dren. Pale green skin, his tail grows like crystal opal in sunlight, little dexterous hands and feet like a human, big bulbous blue eyes, cute as a button, courageous to a fault. He's not human, he's not from Earth, and he's evolved with the ability to defy gravity and fly through the air. This is Kalem's ship. There's Kalem. This is his ship, 3 semispheric pods, hovering stationary while they're outside it to have this experience. What he's doing really is sharing with people that all the people that died on Earth and that were destroyed on Maldek, which is now an asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter, planet that blew up, are safe. They're going to be reincarnated in the future of Earth. Guess who's on Earth today? Okay, so this opening goes to the 5th dimension above the void, known to certain Buddhist monks and some esoteric groups. This is where this beings come from. This is an interdimensional opening. It's important because in this book, it reveals more about extraterrestrials, negative and positive, influenced Earth at this time and how they're working behind the scenes today. So you're going to find 30 illustrations. This is a bad guy, a human from another world who tries to get power at the expense of other beings. He's holding a crystal. He stole one of 3. This is one, has the eye of the Ankh. You can barely see it just right here. And each rectangle crystal, one blue, one green, fits into that eye. When a student's prepared, this master teacher takes them to the realm of the Silent One, or prime creator, the source, where they become a master adept in their own right. The bad guy wants to get a hold of that by stealing, killing, murdering, whatever he can. So these are actual actors that were utilized and shot to portray this. This is a proprietary image, means it's part of the copyright of this book. Original artwork, it's not from the internet. So we don't want anybody utilizing this or trying to sell it or do anything with it because it's designed to only help them and no monetary system is involved in this. What Perry's showing you now is a close-up look of the details of an individual's soul, an Atma. Goes from a white core, hold it up a minute longer, and goes into yellow, can't see it, then it becomes red, then it becomes like a green, then a blue, then lavender, then violet, and then it's golden white aura around it. The energy of the universe outside of Earth looks like this, a little brighter, but it looks like this, a little brighter light. The void of space that appears black in time-lapse photographies from the Hubble telescope of outer space and galaxies is not black. To this, the Atma, it is a white golden light that just packs. And all worlds and planets and spheres are suspended, floating in it, turning on their axis, creating gravitational floating mechanisms. This energy that's out there is not nuclear or atomic in nature. What do I mean by that? It means there's no protons, electrons, or neutrons in that energy. Dark matter isn't dark. It just appears that way to humans' eyes on Earth. We need to understand this if we want to get around the universe, because you cannot travel across faster than the speed of light, so to speak, or get around vast distances without understanding that energy is not nuclear, without understanding how to work with it. You won't get very far. More advanced
Okay.
races understand this, okay?
Yeah, may I mention about about your Emerald Doorway book? You know,
Sure.
it is very, very interesting. People who read this will understand how it happened, the pole shift at 100,000 years ago. You know, understand and can see picture very well. I don't think that you can find this anywhere. You know, this kind of information from anywhere. Only this book.
No, because people don't yet remember that much. I wanted to show you something because I think this little character is a friend of mine, personal friend. He exemplifies all the best qualities of the most evolved human being, and he's not even human. Telepathic, has a photographic memory, has vocal cords. You could speak with him, or you could hear him talk to you in your head. This is Etta. See him levitating here above the ground, little tail growing. He's got dexterous hands and feet and fingers and toes like a human. Big bulbous blue eyes. When his mouth schools, he looks like he's amused about something. This guy, if you befriended him, would die for you to save your life. He's not from Earth, and he's also a master teacher. Now, how are you going to get people on Earth to accept being taught wonderful things by this guy if they're terrified of, oh my God, there's a pandemic, let's hoard toilet paper? You know, people are acting irrational. When they get panicky like that, they do things that create shortages that don't exist. If that were allowed to go out of control indefinitely, all food, everything would stop and everybody would die. Because people would have fear, would create all these shortages, hoard things, and then they just couldn't meet the demand. So we're very fortunate. I remember there was once a show on one of the episodes of Stargate SG-1, Richard Dean Anderson stuff that they did about a pandemic. And they had martial law declared all over the world, and 5,000 people had died. And it was increasing. And I looked at that show and I said, what a prediction of the future that was, but it's a lot worse than that. And nobody's declared martial law. Mm-hmm. People should be fortunate. I mean, they could have. People keep rioting in the streets and using the death of one person as an excuse to rob and steal. They're going to create more problems than they ever dreamed they wanted. And those problems will be dealt with. So I recommend people try to be calm. And just because one bad person does something to someone else doesn't mean everyone's doing it. The majority of people on Earth aren't doing that. When people use such things as an excuse to rob and steal, they're creating some very bad karma for themselves. Why? Because every action creates an equal but opposite reaction in the universe. No one escapes it. So I will say that in wishing all people well on this planet, all people, all races, all governments, hidden or otherwise, classified or not, because when people start to do that, they're going to experience a transformation of this world they won't see coming and won't expect. First, though, the people on this planet need to go in this direction. There is no other way. So, I'm not criticizing or critical of any group, religion, any race, any creed, government or otherwise, except to say that when people act in fear, they make mistakes, always and only. That's it. Now we move on. I think if people hear me speak, they'll know it's genuine. That I really do wish them all well, every last one of them. And there's no revenge or hatred or anger or any of that in my heart towards any of them. I understand how they were raised not to know things here. All of those people have the potential to remember. But they've got to get centered enough, turn off negative emotions and imagination, and then what was them begins to resurface again in their lives. What really matters. There's a process to this. Okay. Any questions, Perry?
No, I talk a lot already today. Ready to go on journey.
You're not? Okay. Well, okay. So Common sense is common sense for all people. When they get full of anger and use it as an excuse to behave badly, they're doing a disservice and dishonoring, disrespecting anybody they're writing about. That's whatever that person had to suffer and needlessly be, exterminated. That's true. But when people use that as an excuse to behave badly, they're just setting up repercussions in space-time that can be unexpectedly derail them. I don't want to see that. I don't wish that on them. Not at all. So I will put that out in the world as a benevolent thing meant for the good of all life, without exception. Because that's how it's meant. Okay. When we go on one of these journeys, I work with the first half of the word human, which is HU. It's hidden in plain sight. Think of it this way: the human languages did not evolve originally on this planet. They may have been altered over time, but they were brought here from other worlds. All the races represented on the Earth currently did not evolve on this planet originally. Not one human being ever evolved out of the primordial swamps of this planet. They did evolve billions of years ago out in the galaxies and were brought here. Under one scenario or another, dating back 65 million years since the dinosaurs on this planet were made extinct. Therefore, people on Earth have a great deal to recover about who they are and what their history is, planetary and solar system history that they live in, and their history in the galactic worlds, in the interdimensional worlds, even the realities beyond time and space. Each individual has the capability, under the right conditions, with their own initiative, to co-create getting free from all this stuff. Beings that I know that I work with from other worlds and other places will help them, but they're not going to do it for them. They will not wave a magic wand and set anybody free here because they're used to being mindlessly entertained. They don't want to run the governments of this planet. They want our governments to run it properly, in a kind way, for the real benefit of the people. That's what they want. They don't want to run us or tell us what to do, but there are conditions, circumstances under which they will tolerate this planet exploring space, and under those they will not. This is not open for negotiation. There are people on Earth today that understand this fact already, classified, hidden government and all. They're just trying to figure out how to disclose safely. They are getting the help they need to do this. Once tyrants have been removed from this world and underground bases, then this can be done. You're not going to have a tyrant alien race backing a corrupt government any longer for them to stay in power the way they are. And that's important to state. It's not meant to harm anyone or accuse anyone because they were running in terror and misdirected subconscious fear, making the decisions they've made, particularly after World War II. I don't think they really had any other way of doing it at the time, considering how they were at the end of World War II, and how frightened they were that aliens were coming here, and how much they wanted people to feel safe and rebuild a destroyed world and be baby boomers, create babies and feel comfortable and all that. So they did what they could at the time. That's no longer acceptable. The way they used to do things no longer works, and they're not going to be able to continue it. They know that. So disclosure is underway. And if you know where to look for it, you'll see that the Pentagon in the United States is approving some of these disclosures. They would have denied at great expense, even at the threat of your life, previously. They don't do that anymore. So things are already changing. People won't wave a magic wand and free someone because they know people will recreate the trap they're in through subconscious drives and negative emotions and imaginations. And this omnipresent living energy will just cooperate. It'll just give you what you ask for, even subconsciously. So Normal human beings in other worlds do not have subconscious minds. People on Earth do. That is not normal. As far as I know, this information is uniquely coming out to this world through my work for the first time. It's because of who I am, where I come from, and why I'm here. It's not for any other reason. I don't care about the baubles and fame and fortune on this planet at all. I can deal with either, have money or not. The point is, it's not my motivation. It just isn't. I know better. Beings I work with do not, money's not even legal on most planets. It's a method and illusion to control people, condition them to it, then threaten to take it away. That's all. So on other worlds, although we have to deal with it here practically, it's not even allowed. So you can see how much this world needs to change to be able to play among the stars. There's not going to ever be a Star Trek in the future with radioactive warp core drives, because those kinds of technologies that pollute and are dangerous are illegal outside of this world. So we're not going to be able to take such things out there among the stars from here. They're not going to allow it. And I wouldn't either. Being in their shoes, I wouldn't. Of course not. And again, the fear of people on Earth is that some alien race will want to control this planet. Well, it's true that there were several that tried to do that, but they were stopped and extricated from here. So now we have the opportunity to correct the subconscious misdirecting programming that people have subjected to without their consent or awareness on this world. We have the opportunity to do that now for the first time. And whether you like it or not, everybody on this earth is involved, or will be. Some people will die naturally of old age or some other disease, but the being that leaves that body behind will be involved in this process, whether they have a body on earth or not. It's important for me to state that. No being has ever died in the history of the multidimensional universe. Bodies, yes. Buildings, yes. Even planets. The Atma, soul? No. It's not made of nuclear energy. It is energy, but not as people understand it yet on Earth. So that's said, that's important. I begin these journeys by sending out the hue on a series of higher tones, and I do this for a specific reason. It is not to give people a mimicry of hue so they can hear it and then sit at home and go hue, 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 and try to get something to happen. That won't do it. It's a telepathic channel that I co-create with others who are not of this earth for the benefit of life on this planet, and it connects from me as the Atma to them as the Atma, core to core, not brain to brain or body to body. It cannot be messed with. It cannot be altered. It cannot be possessed. It cannot be perverted or misused. It is the hue itself, the first sound underlying all creation. And it's not nuclear. It cannot be manipulated through technology or beings in or out of bodies, not in any negative way. It of itself will co-create with anybody imagining in it both things, good and bad. But if a person becomes aware to direct their imagination into it for the recovery of who they are for the right reason and for the benefit of all life, meaning that they use the imagination to be of benefit to all life in the grand multidimensional creation. In other words, to be of benefit to what they think the source, or what people from other worlds call prime creator. They call it the supreme being. They don't understand what that is, and it's not a guy on a throne. We're all comprised of the same energy as that source, as a sphere. Just sharing this information with people alone changes things permanently. Because if it's true, once they hear it, they'll never forget it. When I go into the hue, I ask that people close their eyes. Why? Because when you open your eyes, you can see a very narrow band of light. And you can see a band of light coming from and reflecting off of all molecules vibrating at the same time rate that you see out in space, the Hubble telescope shot, galaxies, the Earth, the moon, the sun, the stars, the planets, the birds, the water, everything. What you can see with the human eyes in this physical body vibrate at the same molecular time rate, so you can see them. But there are numbers of beings and realities existing in parallel and higher dimensions that vibrate at different molecular time rate that you can't see. You get out of your body as a being like you're supposed to be, but you got to do when the body ends anyway, and you can see all this and know all this. Imagine someone you love and respect, you're grateful they are in your life, person, place, or thing, but something when you imagine a child's smile, a beautiful hummingbird, a waterfall, anything that makes you feel warm, uplifted inside when you first visualize it. We use what people on Earth call daydreaming. Why? Because the imagination is not created from the brain, in the skull, or from a body that you're running. When you see something out in front of you walking down the street and your eyes see it, but you're imagining being up in the mountains and you can see yourself skiing, for instance. You're actually doing that somewhere else. Maybe not on Earth, maybe not even in this reality. Maybe in a higher parallel dimension of the physical universe on a world like Earth. And what people don't realize is that what is seeing that other thing, whatever it may be, while they're walking down the street looking out of their eyes, is not made up in the brain. It is what the Atma running that body without realizing it is looking into the universe and seeing what it wishes to see. Very important people understand this difference, or they'll make little to no progress at all. Imagination, what we imagine we want to do or see in our lives, whether selfish or completely altruistic, for the benefit of all life, including your own, which is how you should be utilizing it, actually exists somewhere. We don't make up stories about other galaxies far, far away, or parallel dimensions, or TV shows, or films. These things that are shown in some of these feature films anyway, exist somewhere. The writers have simply unconsciously channeled it in and wrote it down. It's important for people to understand this, because as a normal human being, they're supposed to understand this and be able to work with it. Why? To create with their imagination new ways of doing things that will benefit all life. Many, vast numbers of world races out among the stars in our galaxy grow up as children being motivated by their governments, the way they believe, the way they know, to only create, to be inspired to create new ways of doing things for the good of people on their planet and the good of people on hundreds and hundreds of millions of other worlds. And they grow up like that. They don't grow up like people on Earth. Earth's a bit of an enigma in the universe because it's been retarded and held back, particularly because of the polar shifts that were happening until recently. They have been permanently stopped. Not from people on Earth. So imagine someone you respect and love, you're grateful they're in your life, and then enjoy the hue as I put it out. I'm not putting this out so you will go home later and sit down and try to mimic this in some superficial way. It is important that each person that work with the hue have a grounded understanding of what it is, who they are, what their purpose is for existing, how to connect with the omnipresent living energy that supports the whole creation, the pure hue itself, particularly the new ray in the hue. The new consciousness streaming through the omnipresent force people have prayed to for ages. Only works one way now, and that is, it will only work with you if you will imagine with it new ways of doing things for the good, the benefit of all life, which includes you. To do that, we have to become and awaken the awareness of life that exists beyond Earth. Of course we do. Common sense. I will begin those tones now. Before I do, Perry, would you let me know if you can hear them clearly? Otherwise, I'll set up a microphone and an interface.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly, Scott.
Let's see how they sound, okay? Off with your mic.
Yeah.
Okay. You. Can you hear that clearly?
At the end, I feel like the sound drop off, but can hear, but from here then drop down.
Okay. Okay, because we're working with little teeny microphones on little desktop video camera. Even if I was on a phone, it'd be the same way for a radio interview. So I can set up a microphone real quick and work through an interface to make sure we get all the hues correctly, because I want people to get the benefit of doing it. I have tried this numbers of ways without this microphone interface like musicians would use or what have you. Sometimes it fades, so let's go and change this setting. I'm just testing the microphone. Okay, that means I have to use headphones. Worth the wait, I think. Okay, let's try to test the speaker. Okay, that's working through the headphones. That's working. Be right back.
Okay.
I like that I can do this kind of thing for our radio shows, because okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I put my headphones on here. It's worth the wait. Okay, so you can hear me okay, right?
Yes, okay.
Let's see, I'm going to turn this up. Okay, take this off of here. You should just be able to hear me through the mic and not through my speakers on my desktop. I'm going to move this up a little bit. And let me try these hues again right now before we record. Well, we're still recording, but how's that sound?
Okay. Can hear
Okay.
all the way.
All right, good. That's why the microphone and the interface and all that. Okay, I'll be right back. Smile, close your eyes, let your audience know I'm just taking a little tinkle break here. Okay, we're back. Sorry for the delay, but
It's good. It's like a live radio show.
Yeah, well, you know, you got to have a natural, organic radio show, right? Take one headphone off so I can hear my own voice. Okay. So what I have to do to get the hues, when we do these radio shows, what I like about them a great deal is that I can record this on mine on Zoom. We get good visual for the people who listen to it around the world, and good sound, and particularly the hues with the microphone and interface. When you're just working through a little desktop mic and camera, or on a phone, it's people's voices sound a little more tinny in the background because of the limitation of the little microphones. The technology is not advanced enough. If I paid for a private satellite link and a dish antenna that right from the room here, one of these handheld phones, I could get perfect music. I do a whole symphonic orchestra. The film business uses this, and corporations do it to communicate with each other on big screens, but that's very expensive. So I get the best results this way, and we can put it on your YouTube channel. When I get on a radio show, for instance, that has little phones, you really have to work more diligently with trying to get all the hue tones to be heard. I have a radio show I've been on recently, and maybe another one, where we have to work very carefully with that because the host has got a cell phone and I've got a wireless landline, and the two mixed together are sent to some third party. Makes it very difficult to get real clear, deep signal. These Zoom things are very much more accurate visually and with sound. So let's do this. Get this out of the screen here. There we go. First, imagine people, if you will, sitting down in a chair or lying on a bed, whatever's most comfortable for you. Someone you love and respect, you're grateful they are in your life. Person, place, or thing. But something that really moves your heart. Makes you smile inside. Then I'll send out these tones, and what I'm doing, so you have an understanding of this, is I'm sending out the tones from the white core of who I am as a spherical being, not the body, not the brain. And my own body is in the sleep state or trance state we call sleep. It just means that the body I have, I've learned how to do this, is asleep. The eyes off, whenever they are, even when they're open sometimes, I can still run this form, but I'm communicating to each one of you from the spherical core of my being to the spherical core of the being that you are running a body on Earth, whether you're aware of this or not. Then I work with the hue to make a connection of a pure first sound behind creation. Hue man, hue woman, hue child, hue bird, hue fish, hue planet, whatever. It just opens a door through the pineal gland in the center of the brain so that you can bring awareness of what you're doing out of the body back to the brain and body that never had any of this in it, and download it, so to speak, in order to become more enlightened, more aware than anything you were taught growing up here. You have to bring it back to this form from elsewhere. I'll begin these tones in various higher pitches so that it will affect not only your physical body on Earth in a good way, but what we call the astral body, a life you're living on another dimension, a primary dimension above the physical universe, made of astral matter. All emotion. Emotion is what moves matter in that plane. On the physical Earth, effort does that. In the planes above the astral, causal, mental, and etheric, other types of frequencies move matter there. In the mental plane, it's thought. In the etheric, just before the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth, some of whom believe incorrectly that's the end of all things and nothing's beyond it. There is a great deal far beyond it. To be aware of these things, eventually beings on Earth need to recover that as a single Atma, they are running a number of bodies on different planes to learn the greatest lessons of life, how to be a trustworthy co-creator with the source. We do it mentally, in causation, emotionally from the astral plane, and physically. And we also do this as the Atma itself, working with energy that comes from directly the higher worlds above the void. And it moves down through this one energy that operates on different levels that exists behind all the matter creations in all those planes. In the physical universe alone, where Earth is, there are 144 parallel dimensions of galaxies. People with more advanced technology can move their craft between them. So the Galactic Alliance, what I call the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, centered on a world near the galactic core of the Milky Way galaxy, knows how to circumnavigate all those worlds. They don't take their ships normally into the astral plane. They are limited to the physical matter worlds. The only race I know that's capable or was capable of moving ships between two major divisions, physical and astral, were called the Snail Race. They are human, but 18 to 25 feet tall, not from Earth, not even from our galaxy. And they, as genetic scientists and higher spiritual, enlightened beings, long ago developed DNA, RNA, those kinds of things, and raised them in capability so that individual spherical beings like us could run higher faculties of the Atma through those forms. Obviously, the subconscious thing that has been done to people on Earth prevents them from accessing and knowing what they are as a being running that body. That needs to be reversed. There's no shortcut for that. We are spherical energy beings, what people call soul, without knowing what it is. It has structure. It has a definition, different layers, and it has a certain way that it appears, each being to each being. This is the real human being, not the physical body. The Snail Race developed these higher forms in many races, not just human, that are bipedal, that walk on two legs and have two arms. They went through and did this for all the races people have heard of in galactic, UFO circles and disclosure circles, and many, many, many more than they know about. And then they developed these forms for Atmas to run to gain experience until they became spacefaring. Then they backed away and vanished for a very long period of time. The Snail Race recently went through an enlightening, uplifting, unexpected change because of what are called the silent mentors that run the mechanics of creation and keep it all in place. And because of other factors, and they presented a new ray of energy to the Galactic Alliance Council. And then that changed them. And so now we have a focus on changing the Earth for the first time. Whenever a person works with the hue, they're actually telepathically connecting into the pure energy behind creation directly. And it knows full well how to best direct a person who's willing and is humble to their own higher nature, to be surrendered to their own higher self at the source, to recover what they know, be trusted with it. I will begin these tones now to assist you all to put the body in the trance state we call sleep. Remember, this is not difficult. You all do it every night anyway when you put that body to sleep like experts. It's a complex process. You know, as the being, you have to make the pineal gland secrete serotonin, make melatonin, and that makes the body run. Heart, lungs, blood circulation on automatic while you're gone. Every night, somewhere. Since this world teaches no one about how to bring back such awareness, they grow up as adults with no tangible reality about it. No practical experience, no confidence. This is done to assist you all to change that, if you're willing. If you'll get off your duff and actually work with the grounded understanding, the techniques that are provided, you will gain the assistance you seek. I'll begin those tones now. You. What is visually happening from the perspective of the Atma? Working with a very dear friend, Ambassador Tyranian of the Snail Race. He is a being that works with me. He does not channel through me. I'm not a trans medium for him to speak through me or anything like that. He's a separate autonomous Atma, a master teacher, highly evolved that works with me telepathically and one-on-one. We work together in co-creative harmony. Understand this. No being I know out in the universe that is worth their salt in enlightened awareness will ever speak through another being or use them to talk through them. I know negative beings that are perfectly willing to do that. I know of them. But we don't work that way. These beings work telepathically and respectfully with us and respect our potential to co-create with them. It's important to know this. It's not to be insulting towards any other group or people or how they work. It's just to differentiate that I work this way and not in other ways people work. Telling real hidden truth to people and demonstrating it is a fine line because some people will take it defensively. It's not meant to be put out for that reason. What I put out is meant for their uplifting benefit only. It is not a competition. This creates a doorway, like a vortex, like a tornado, but calm and gentle, made of blue-green light that's whirling clockwise, that goes up from where you are on Earth, bypasses the lower dimensions of time and space for a good reason, crosses the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth, and comes into the realms of pure positive energy where no negative nature exists or ever existed. For the change that's coming about now in the lower dimensions of time and space and for planet Earth, something had to first change up there amongst what I would call source or prime creator. It comes about from beings like us journeying back to that source to share or give ways of doing things differently. And then it's tested in the lower worlds of time and space. And if it comes back true, necessary, and kind, surprisingly, as rare as that is, then it is implemented. It is the one energy behind and supporting all life, of which we are comprised as individuals. And it is that one power, collectively, that provides not only the energy, but also the ability to bring into manifestation what we imagine. We of ourselves as single individuals do not do that. We co-create imaginatively what it will bring into creation. This is a humble situation, but it should be understood that understanding this properly means we are meant to co-creatively bring new ways of doing things for the good of all life to the source. It is why we exist. We are meant to be co-creators with that source, not its slaves, not its worshipers. It does not require that. If you go to the source itself, you will discover, as I have, it does not and never has requested that we worship it. That is only what tyrants do, pretending to be that source. It does require that we respect and know what that source is from whence we come, respect it, each other, and all life in the entire multidimensional creation. This is required to become a free co-creative being. Imagine being above your body, looking down on it from the ceiling. Up near the ceiling as a spherical ball of light. And you can see your body with the eyes closed, sitting there in a chair, or lying on a bed or a couch or floor, wherever you are. Smile kindly down upon the form. The body you have and the personality and brain you grew up with is an extension of you, the Atma. It only speaks and moves and doesn't die because you give it energy and run it. It is a type of machine. It is a biological entity that runs at 98.7 degrees Fahrenheit, is made of twin-stranded DNA composed of what are called genomes. Genomes are individual switches accessed by precise frequencies. They can be turned on or off. And if you're unconscious about their use, some tyrant may have shut some down so that instead of living 1,000 years or more, it only lives 80 or 100 if you're lucky. We all have a 100% developed brain. It's known that on Earth, people use 6 to 10% of that because subconsciously they're blocked from accessing it. It's still there. If you could use 100% of 100% of the brain you would have a photographic memory, which comes from the Atma, but would work through your physical body, and you would be telepathic to your fellows on Earth, even if they can't hear you. True communication is telepathic. Vocal cords are secondary only. We are spherical beings. We have never been, nor will we ever be, a physical body. The illusion, the Maya, the karma, the reincarnation comes from a misdirected belief that you are. That somehow perfection will be reached by you reincarnating forever with no memory, life to life, until you get it perfect. That is nonsense. The being needs to bring with them, or at some point in some lifetime, cross paths with someone or something that can help them recover the wisdom they knew as a being in all those lives before they found themselves incarnated on this world. First rule of thumb is become aware consciously of what was just shared with you, because it is your own. I'm not giving you what you don't already have. Providing the way for you to recover it is what this is about. That's all. There's a certain protection that comes with working with the hue that each individual will experience for themselves, even while living on a world as backward as Earth. I should say a planet full of human beings is backward misdirected as those are on Earth. The planet's fine by itself. Now, Imagine being above the planet. Remember, you're a spherical being of energy, living, eternal. It cannot be destroyed. It is not made of nuclear material. It is not atoms and protons and electrons that can be split. You could put a hydrogen bomb under all of us hovering above the planet as the Atma. It could go off and you wouldn't even feel it. Because we aren't made of matter. We are energy, but of a type that comes from worlds beyond the creation of time and space. Remember this. In space, you can see that we are in a circle around myself, standing beside Ambassador Tyranian. He's showing you a body form now. It's 18 feet tall, long, slightly curly, blonde hair, big blue eyes. Looks like a Greek god about 36 in a white tunic and bare feet. And he's got his two thumbs up, pointing at us. Behind that is the real being, spherical, just like us, a little brighter perhaps. Yeah. The Snail race immortalized their physical bodies over 1 billion Earth years ago, when they reached an evolutionary point where they could dematerialize the DNA structure, which is 8-stranded at the time, and store it as a pattern in one of the teardrops in one of the layers of their being we call the Atma. When they want to manifest a form that's physical and solid for any reason, they draw on the one energy supporting all life, fill this DNA and project it like he's doing now. This is for your benefit. When you find yourself hovering in a circle around him, looking down on the Earth with the polar ice caps and the moon with its barren atmosphere and crater marks, circling the planet without turning on its axis, the sun in the distance, and billions of stars all around us. In this form, it doesn't look black between the Earth, the moon, and the sun, and the stars and the galaxies. It looks like a golden white light. Thick, pervasive, filling what people used to call dark matter. Because dark matter isn't nuclear in nature. It doesn't obey the laws of physics of protons and electrons and all that stuff. It is the energy behind and supporting all that. And it is one energy. And it extends up through all the dimensions, across the void into the upper worlds, even to the source itself. What some people call the ocean of sound and light, which looks like a galaxy, comprised of individual beings like us, thick and bulbous in the center. But it's really made up of beings. And it's circling in the orbit of a galaxy in a blue void of very bright energy. Now that's up there. I bring it to your attention so you can begin to remember that maybe once, somewhere long ago, you knew this. We are in space, hovering around Tyranian. Now you begin to see a body that looks just like yours, perfectly formed, perfectly healthy, about 36, standing in the void of space out in front of the sphere you are that's projecting it. Yes, you have the ability to do this if you can imagine it. And when you look across at each other, you're going to see there are dozens of people on this journey with us, actually hundreds now, in several concentric circles around Tyranian, who serves as a focal point to keep us focused on constructive benefit, so we don't get lost in all the phenomena of the lower dimensions. When you look down on the Earth, you can see the polar ice caps and the barren moon. And Tyranian waves a hand, and you begin to see it change. It raises in vibration, and right where the Earth was now becomes a world, Earth, covered in oceans with one huge continent centered over the equator from left to right hemisphere, half the planet. And as it moves up through the upper hemisphere, it curves gently and goes back down. It's about a third of the way from the top pole. It does the same on the south pole. And when you look at the moon, you can see that it's covered with a wondrous oxygen atmosphere, clouds. You can see 5 dome cities and botanical paradises of little lakes and small oceans on the surface as it's turning on its axis. And on the backside, you see 2 large dome cities in the mountainous area as it moves around the planet Earth. and in the distance, the sun. You're looking at an Earth and a moon that exist in the third higher parallel dimension of the physical universe. And the molecules in that dimension, in the physical universe, vibrate at a higher or faster molecular time rate. This is to show you that a planet exists and has been manned by very advanced beings from the Galactic Alliance and master teachers, and it is set up to be or be utilized as a prototype. Earth as you know it now, and the moon as you know it now, will change. When the planet's people are ready, this will take place. You can see a green emerald beach. If you look at the world sphere, there's a continent over it, the equator. Down below by the southern pole is this crescent-shaped, glowing emerald green beach you can see from space. Next, you look down and you look at your feet standing in space, and you find that you're wiggling your toes in that emerald green sand down on the planet. And you look around and you can breathe in this sweet atmosphere, perfumed, flower-laden. And you look at this jungle in a big curve out in front of you, and a brown moss-covered path extending straight through the jungle trees, straight as an arrow, about a mile. And you look down at your feet and you feel this green glowing energy about a foot above the sand move up your leg. It feels cooling, refreshing, and warm at the same time. And it moves up through your body form, which is energy, looks like you, and up into the white core of your being as a sphere hovering above it. And then it moves out into the green layer. Perry showed you the image of what the Atma looks like, its structure and form, which I provided for her. And there, this has to do with recall and remembering your life as a being in eternity. In all the worlds beyond this planet, time and space and different dimensions that you've already experienced that you were made to forget. It's about recovering that in a balanced way while you live out your life on Earth, becoming ever more balanced than it is. And you look out in the ocean behind you, you can see there's hundreds of us along this curved beach. How would it look like? I guess it curves this way or like that. Anyway, if you look straight out in front of you, you'll see the jungle trees and a blue-green ocean water, calm, and Tyrellian standing up to his knees out in the ocean. 18 feet tall, much taller than us, giving us 2 thumbs up. What he's doing is like a mudra. He's putting out an energy that is only on a spiral, uplifting. It maintains a consistent energy of the hue until you can leap into it on your own. That's what it's for. When you look in the distance, you can see this brown moss-covered path goes further inland and upland, and you can see there's a single snow-covered mountain in the distance to the right. And to the left, on a lower plateau, a clear dome covering a vast city. 3 4-sided, golden-sided quartz-capped pyramids are towards the left, surrounding an emerald green lake and little ivory-colored dome dwellings out in the countryside with little white roadways between them. And in the back, a semicircular mountain range, little waterfalls cascading down it, put there for the aesthetic enjoyment of the people who work here. In between those domes, those pyramids rather, are dome dwellings, long oval ones and others where scientific laboratories are stationed, manned by Galactic Alliance highly trained specialists and their master teachers. Inland, along this brown moss-covered path, about it's about a mile, is a white marble floor clearing. You can see a statue of a woman there, and you're suddenly surrounding it. You've moved over the top of the jungle trees with Tyrellian, hovering above this statue of this woman. It is made of quartz. It is perfectly polished, 10 feet tall. She has her hands out to the side with glowing spheres of green light around them. And she's got a gold band around her forehead, slightly pointed ears like an elf. It's beautiful ivory-colored skin and violet colored eyes. And in the center of this gold band is a teardrop shape pointing downward, faceted emerald green gem. When you look closely at this 10-foot tall statue of a woman who has long silver-like hair, like silver metal, polished and violet eyes, beautiful woman, elegant, longer neck and longer fingers and hands than we have on Earth because she's 10 feet tall. When you look into that green crystal, you can see a woman just inside the surface of the quartz staring back at you, this very same personage. And you suddenly find yourself inside a vast green field of energy. This is an interdimensional tool or doorway. And she's standing there in bare feet, hovering in this atmosphere. And all of you find yourself hovering with physical forms that look like you. They're made of energy, the spherical Atmas. And she's demonstrating where this green energy comes from that powers that beach, that provides the gift of recall and remembering. Beside her, you'll see a man a little taller, her husband, her mate, with silver hair and violet eyes appear. And he points off to his right. And you can see a planet appear in this green energy. It is 4 times larger than Earth. It has dome cities all over its surface, little oceans and lots of little continents, no polar ice caps. It has 3 moons at different distances circling this planet the size of Earth. Again, no polar ice caps and dome cities on them. In the distance, you can see what's called the Trinary Sun System that these planets orbit. One is a blue-white, it's like a blue-white giant, a blue star. One further out is yellow like our sun, smaller, and one further out smaller is called a red dwarf. They circle the larger sun, and these planets circle them. That planetary system is located 180 degrees on the opposite side of the Milky Way galaxy, down in one of the Severan spiral arms. It's called Xentronomun 1. The race are called Xentronomus. They are human, but much more evolved than people on Earth. They've mastered genetic science. The Say rays also instructed them so that they immortalize their physical forms that do not disease and do not age. This man and this woman are showing you the body form they have on that planet in our galaxy that are over 3.5 million years old. Needless to say, they do not procreate out of control. There's no overpopulation on their world systems. They maintain these forms to be a constant guide for all their people. And they are in direct managerial positions, let's say, over a little more than half this galaxy where war has never taken place. There was once a war in the other half, where the Galactic Alliance is, 500,000 years ago, that came to the end with the defeat of a reptilian race back then that had been misdirected and perverted by an even more advanced white ring race that was kicked out of this dimension long ago. The negative effects remain, and they are being dealt with outside of Earth as we speak. So there's no war going on right now out in the Milky Way. If there were, Earth would be in the middle of it, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. So there is a policing action that is going on to this day outside of Earth that has kept certain things or negative elements from out there from gaining complete control and killing off most of the population of this planet. That has been permanently stopped, that kind of inroad. So now we have to clean up the negative effects of what's left behind. This man and this woman from another planet, much taller than you, is telepathically saying something to each one of you. Something encouraging. Basically, they're saying that if you wish, both of them and Galactic Alliance personnel will work with you to help you recover who you are if you're sincere and you are willing to do the work to recover your higher faculties of direct knowing perception. They're wording this very carefully. They are not tyrants, so they will not force any of this on anyone. Understand that there is a new energy moving through the omnipresent first sound behind creation now that cannot be changed or altered, and it's moving in one direction. So it is inevitable that people will recover in most unexpected new ways. Then you find yourself outside this statue. Hovering above it is a sphere. There's Tyrellian. You look down on this white marble floor that this woman's statue is standing upon, and you look up at the distance. Higher up the mountainside, you see a single snow-covered mountain to the right. 2/3 the way up towards the summit, on the left side, in a cavern opening, is a roaring waterfall cascading out as blue-green luminous energy, self-luminous, dropping thousands of feet down a sheer cliff face to disappear in a blue-green forest that circles around the backside of a very large, clear-domed city nestled near its base. And you look up in space, you find yourself hovering around Tyrellian. I am there, looking down on this Earth with no polar ice caps. Big, huge continent called Lemuria, still to this day, centered over the equator. And you can look through the planet. On the backside, you can see there's another continent, 2/3 its size, still referred to as Atla, call it Atlantis. There is no competition. The beings that reside on this Earth are all benevolent. There are no pollutants in the atmosphere, none in the water, none on the moon. And this is a protected parallel dimension where this world, this Earth and moon are. Tyrants have never had access to it. When you look up, you can see a spiraling blue-green water-like spout, journeying clockwise gently, but it's glowing. Looks like water, but it's luminous, and you can hear a sound humming from it. And you look out and see a sphere of beings surrounding us. Over 1,000 men and women, expressing their physical forms they have on many world systems, human, humanoid, and some others as well. And these are master teachers, and they are surrounding us as a sphere of master teacher beings. And that whole sphere, Tyrellian in the center, is moving up into this vortex. And we're suddenly shot up at tremendous speed up through this blue-green luminous tunnel. You can see levels of galaxies dropping away behind us through the transparent walls of this energy. And upwards, you see a pale blue atmosphere, and we're suddenly up inside it. And that vortex diminishes and vanishes below us. Wherever you look now, you see a vast, infinite, in every direction, luminous pale blue light. This is what some beings call the void. We're moving at tremendous speed further upward until you begin to see a long, white, luminous beach that extends as straight as an arrow in each direction, left and right. And we stop and hover above this beach that borders this blue atmosphere. And you can see jungle trees lining that beach made of crystalline growing things, luminous. There's dozens of birds that fly down out of the trees that have long rainbow-colored bodies. They look to be about, about 1.5 feet long. The colors of rainbow color are blended so smoothly down their feathers, it's quite spectacular. Look how beautiful they are. They have big bulbous blue eyes. They look kind of like a blue jay, but they have twin sets. 2 sets of bird wings fluttering like a dragonfly would or a hummingbird. And they are singing. Dozens of them lined up in rows above the trees in greeting. What you hear sounds like men and women's voices with perfect vocal cords sending out the hue, 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 on all these levels. And then they begin to sing a hauntingly beautiful melody that moves the heart. These are our physical forms on this Atma level, or the home of soul, the original home above the void. That's the shoreline to the beginning of it. And they're simply sharing with you. When you look closely at them, you see a spherical being, an Atma, running each one. These are beings who are having the pleasure of experiencing what it's like to be in a flying bird body whose brain and design can handle higher faculties. They're telepathic, have a photographic memory, have vocal cords, and you could talk with them. But they are speaking to you telepathically. You can hear them singing. And then the hue on all these levels blends into one round whole tone, and it draws you as they disperse up into the trees over the top of the jungle. And there's a whole sphere of beings, over 1,000, surrounding Tyrellian and all of us in a circle around them. And then those beings disband and move off in every direction. And then they spiral upward into another vortex made of white golden light. And we follow them. We are moving up into a specially created parallel dimension between the fifth dimension above the void and the sixth. And it is called the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, where beings can go at night when they're out of their bodies and receive training to remember their purpose for existing, what they've lived and what they've done over billions of years, and what their purpose is in co-creating with the source. This 1,000+ beings that are feminine and masculine teach in different domed and other structures. And we're moving up this channel of white golden light until we see a brilliant blue atmosphere. And we shoot out into it as a sphere surrounding all of us. And you look down and see this vortex dissolve and vanish away. You are hovering now in a blue atmosphere, and you look down, you see 6 snow-covered mountain peaks far below your feet, or where your feet would be. And to the left, or to the west, on the flat land below these 6 peaks, is a blue glass administration tower that spirals up out of another white marble floor, many stories up to a flattened, spherical, transparent blue glass administration tower, then up to a minaret point. When you look out north, south, east, and west, you can see we are now hovering above a huge floating landmass, a big circular continent with a luminous white glowing beach surrounding the entire circumference. Down in the center of the valley, below and between the 6 snow-covered mountain peaks, you can see a white kind of a sandy beach on an island surrounded by blue-green luminous lake. And in the center of it is a cobalt blue sphere hovering above what's called a vertical rectangular blue lapis lazuli type stone laced with gold. And this sphere is hovering a foot above it by itself. In the center of this blue glass transparent sphere is a radiant cobalt blue star, glowing. And you're drawn to it. And you find us all hovering around this sphere above this island. Down at the base of these 6 snow-covered mountain peaks, you look up and you can see them towering about us. And you can see that inside this blue star, in this luminous sphere, transparent, is a white golden light powering it, running up and down. It hits this blue star from the top and extends ever upward in a spiral. That comes from dimensions far above the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. So what you need to do now, if you're willing, is to simply find yourself in the middle of that blue star. Because soul is not time and space, you will find that this energy that looks small coming out of this star is now gigantic. And you are floating in the middle of this roaring blue, radiant, golden white energy. Tyrellian is there. All the other 1,000 men and women who have come here with us disperse, and they're going off into different directions to teach at this academy. The blue glass administration tower has white roadways extending from the marble base in every direction like the spokes of a bicycle tire. They go through the base of the mountains, through tunnels into the hollow interior where this shaft of light is radiating, and then through tunnels to the other side, so that you have roadways ending on the white glowing beach in all directions from a central hub. We are in the middle of that central hub, allowing this radiant white golden light, humming with the sound of the universe, to flow through us. Nothing of any negative nature whatsoever can or was brought here from the lower worlds of time and space. You are all here as the pure Atma, as you've always been. Everything else you've picked up in your journeys in the lower worlds of time and space is not who you are. Then you find yourself hovering above your body back on Earth, up near the ceiling, carrying this experience with you and looking down kindly on the form that lives on Earth in the trance state we call sleep, sending a little beam of white golden light, the awareness of the experience, down into the center of your brain, it's called the pineal gland, and out into the brain to light up and make accessible to you more brain cells. And it moves out through your skull, down through your body, and out into the world, where it connects with 3 pyramids that have been stationed on Earth in recent years. Quite large, 4-sided, golden-sided, quartz-capped pyramids, 2 on the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans, and 1 inside a mountain in the Himalayas. And in them are these fountains. And inside is a fountain that has white alabaster scalloped edges. And in it is a statue of a being named Satnam, who has about 36, bronze golden skin, bald head, 2 gold bracelets on each of his upper arms, and a little white tunic from his waist down to his ankles. Bare feet, bare-chested, muscular. And he has his hands down at his sides with this white golden light pouring from the palms, filling the bowl, pouring over the edge of this scalloped white alabaster stone fountain, where it diminishes and goes into the center of the earth. So the energy has come through you, connects to these fountains, and then it's emanated through the pyramid structures, out through the planet, and onward out into space to make a connection. The energy that moves through this doorway only moves one way, and it is for the uplifting, benevolent benefit of all life only. When you look down on your body, be aware. When you're ready, open your eyes back here on Earth.
Thank you, Scott, for the journey. And I would like to say, when we go on journey like this, whatever you see is believe in yourself and confidence in yourself. You know, people asking themselves, "Do I really see it?" You know.
Well, when I'm describing it, I know that they're seeing what I'm describing. If they come back here out of misguided training and upbringing that, "Oh, I don't see anything," that's just the self they grew up with telling them that. They actually do see it. And when it's described, they visualize it. Takes a little while for them to allow it to come into the consciousness they grew up with on Earth and allow it to emanate into it so that they become more enlightened on this planet through that form. They have to bring such experiences back here because they exist out there, if that's the best way I think of putting it. And you're most welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's like anything, you can share truth with people, reveal deliberately hidden truth with people, share with them a technique. I would suggest they get the book, The Savior's Agenda, Emerald Doorway. In the Savior's Agenda, they'll find a technique section in the back that has the hue and the new ray in it, working through all those techniques. So once they go through the book and see what Mark Sandfield and Janice Carter had to go through to recover who they were, they didn't know on Earth, just like you. Then it'd be very enlightening and helpful for you to work with the techniques after that, because you'll understand what it is we're doing for yourself. That can make a big difference. I still find to this day a lot of people that have been on radio, heard radio shows or heard us, still don't really work with those techniques at the back. Somehow they just get misdirected and won't do it. So they're not going to make very much progress without doing that. It's up to them.
Yes. Yeah, correct. We have to practice on those exercises.
Any other questions you would like to ask on behalf of your listeners or our listeners?
Yeah, I'd just like to say maybe one journey not enough. Please go on many journeys and can always listen to even the previous show that we do together, you know, it's always present live.
There are many we have up on your YouTube channel. Anyway, the reason I repeat this particular journey in slightly different ways is because each time I do it is uniquely fresh and in the moment. And each time we go on it, something more comes into the consciousness of the person on Earth. I mean, we can go and explore individual details and places and locations of the U Expansionary Academy, go into some of the training domes. We've done this before, to experience what kind of training goes on there by what kind of beings that work there. And they're from all over the lower dimensions of time and space. They're often referred to as master teachers. But they do not operate like gurus on Earth have done, requiring people worship at their feet. You surrender to your own higher nature, not to another being. And the master teachers I know will only instruct in this way. Very important to know, because otherwise, you know, you're putting yourself surrendered to something you do not know and have not experienced. And that usually is done by tyrants, one nature or another. Just FYI, but very important for people to understand. The source doesn't require, nor has it ever requested, that we worship it. It does request that we send our creative imagination of what we want to see and have happen into its omnipresent living energy emanation, which we call the first sound, first word behind creation. It's a sound, not a written word. And it's designed to be a co-creator with us, this one power. So whatever we imagine in it as spherical beings, not bodies, made of the same power, it's going to reply to that and bring into manifestation both sides of the coin. That's where illusion or maya comes in. When we're feeding energies to two things at the same time, good and bad, positive and negative, we're trapping ourselves in the energy fields and planes where good and bad happen, the four lower dimensions. The etheric has very little of it, negative nature. The mental, a little more, causal, a little more, astral, a lot more, physical, a great deal more, of direct amounts of good and bad, positive and negative. So we want to get above those lower planes as beings and help the body forms we have living on each of those planes that each individual is running to recover awareness of each other and to really help us down here. So most people's higher selves that they talk about all day aren't really helping them. They're selfish. They're just living out lives there. Got to wake all that up. That should be of some help. Okay, I'll stop the show and wish everybody pleasant dreams and pleasant journeys.
See you next time. Bye.
Okay, we're done.
Can you stop the recording, Scott?
Oh, I didn't? Okay, now we're done.